Hey there, sleep-deprived history enthusiast here tonight. Let's be clear, you're no outlaw, no drunkard, no sinner. At least not in any way that truly counts. Your only crime? Poverty. The desperate kind that makes the streets reject you and churches turn their backs. The chill has seeped into your very bones. Hunger has carved you hollow. With nowhere left to turn, you followed the path of thousands before you, surrendered yourself to the workhouse. Not for punishment, not for salvation, just for a place to rest without being kicked. Just for something pretending to be food. Before we cross that threshold, do me a small favor. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always find it fascinating to see who's tuning in from across the globe. If you'd like early access to more of these bleak historical tales, ad-free episode audio, or simply want to support the show, check the Patreon link in the description. But for now, get comfortable. Let's begin. You stopped bothering to keep your feet dry days ago. The water invaded first around your toes, then crept up through the cracks in your soles. Now it's just there, briefly warmed by your body heat before the alley winds turn it icy again. What's left of your socks abandoned their duty somewhere between last night's shelter under the bridge and this morning's downpour. The city doesn't see you, not really. It brushes past in its urgent dance of opening shops, hawking papers, carrying umbrellas. The respectable folk, those who still button their coats properly, avoid eye contact. Their glances slide over you like oil on water. You shuffle past a bakery with fogged windows, the aroma so rich it physically hurts. Not that you thought they'd let you in, but hunger twists sharper when bread sits just beyond glass. You linger half a second too long. The baker arranging loaves inside gives you that look. No words, just that tight-lipped expression, that slight brow furrow that says, move along. So you do. Past butcher shops, past fishmongers tossing bones to the gutter, past the corner where the constable stands, boots polished, face unreadable. You know better than to hesitate near him. Your hands are cracked ruins. The skin around your knuckles has split into neat little seams, raw pink beneath the grime. You tried wrapping them, but everything you own is soaked, and the cold keeps prying your fingers open like a pickpocket working a purse. One palm still carries the faint scent of lamp oil from begging near the docks yesterday. Or was it the day before? Memories blur into a gray sludge of fog and footsteps, wind and want. Your stomach clenches again, not the sharp stab of fresh hunger, but that deep, grinding ache that feels older than your bones. When did you last eat? The thought slips away. Doesn't matter now. Some boy runs past chasing nothing. You watch without envy, just numb observation, like watching smoke drift. The city moves on. Carriages roll by, their horses blinking patiently in the rain. A woman beats a rug from an upper window, the dust puffing up to join the fog. Someone shouts. Someone laughs. You walk, not toward anything, just because stopping would mean deciding what comes next. The choice has been circling for hours. Days maybe. You told yourself you'd wait for the right moment, until the rain eased, until your head cleared, until your pride softened. But there's no pride left. Just the ghost of it, like a half-remembered song. You've passed 3 churches without entering. Not for prayer, not even for warmth. You've stood by public pumps without begging a drink. You've crouched in the shelter of crumbling walls without speaking to another soul. The city teems with people, but none are yours. None would notice if you folded into a doorway and disappeared. So you weigh the only option left, the one every pauper faces eventually. The workhouse. They call it shelter. They call it sustenance. They say it keeps you alive through winter. In the strictest sense, they're not wrong. But everyone knows the unspoken truths too. How once you enter, you don't leave the same. How you stop being a person and become an entry in a ledger. How they'll strip your clothes, reduce your name, scrub your body like filth, and file your soul under undeserving. You've heard the stories. The boy who tried to run. The girl who never returned from the infirmary. The old man who muttered scripture until they locked him away. But stories don't fill bellies. Stories don't stop the cold settling in your bones like rot. You tell yourself it's just for tonight. One night, long enough for hot food, for lying down without keeping watch. You can leave in the morning. You repeat it like a prayer, as if repetition makes it true. You imagine the stone walls, the endless corridors, the stench of lime and unwashed bodies. But your feet are already turning toward the parish edge, your hands tucked deeper into your sleeves. Your mind protests weakly, as tired of the cold as your bones. The buildings thin as you walk south. Shops give way to warehouses, windows growing narrower, meaner. It's quieter here. The rain falls differently, like the world has stopped pretending to care. The alley appears where they said it would be, behind the tannery, past the broken fence, under a faded sign you can't read. You enter without ceremony. No one stops you. No one asks your business. No one wants to know. The gate emerges from the fog like a tombstone, high iron, joyless. No lanterns, no guards, just a bolt in the shadow of stone walls behind it. No plaque, no welcome, just the certain knowledge that this is where people go when all else fails. You approach slowly. Gravel shifts damply underfoot. The drizzle has soaked through your collar now. You don't bother brushing it away. You pause, not for drama, but because this is the last moment of silence you'll own, the last second where you still belong to yourself. Then you raise your hand, and you knock. The door opens just enough for one eye to appear. Then the bolt clunks, the hinges groan, and the whole heavy thing swings inward with resentful force. A man stands there in a coat too small for his frame, face ruddy from damp, eyes like slate. He doesn't ask your name, doesn't ask why you've come, just looks you up and down once, then turns on his heel, already walking away. You're expected to follow. Inside, the air smells of stone, soot, and boiled cloth. Not warm, not cold, just close in that way cellars are. The door shuts behind you with unnecessary force, the echo rolling down the corridor. No one speaks. Your boots squeak faintly on the floor, slick with something you'd rather not identify. The porter walks ahead without looking back, his steps slow but certain, as if there's no version of reality where you wouldn't trail behind him like a dog on a rope. You're brought to a small vestibule where a long desk stretches like a low wall. Behind it sits a spectacled man with a ledger and a quill balanced between his fingers. He doesn't look up. Another man stands nearby, arms crossed, keys at his belt. You're motioned to stop just short of the desk, not with words, just a flat palm in the air. Then silence. You stop. Name? The ledger man asks, still not raising his head. You give it. He repeats it slowly, writing with care. Age. You guess. Trade. You mumble something vague, something half-true. It doesn't seem to matter. Each answer is absorbed without reaction, like ink into paper. He asks if you've been here before. You haven't. He nods once. Then you're given a number. It's written at the page top in large, deliberate script. It's not yours. It doesn't feel like it belongs to anyone, but it will follow you now. You're told to remove your boots, then your coat, then your shirt. You hesitate from habit, not defiance. The key man uncrosses his arms. That's all it takes. You unbutton. You peel. You step out of everything you arrived in. The clothes are taken from your hands and dropped into a wooden box without ceremony. The box is slid out of view beneath the desk. No one tells you whether you'll ever see it again. The floor is colder now. The air touches your skin in unfamiliar places. You're led to a side room where a basin sits center stage, with a small iron stove in the corner that clearly hasn't been lit in ages. A tub of water stands off to one side, not steaming, not freezing, existing in that miserable middle ground. The woman waiting there doesn't greet you. She's older, sleeves rolled high, apron stiff from years of soap and scrubbing. She wraps the tub side with a stick. That's the only instruction you get. The water doesn't welcome you. It scalds where your skin's raw and does nothing where you need warmth most. You lower yourself cautiously, limbs trembling from exposure and nerves. The woman works quickly, efficiently, without cruelty, but equally without kindness. She scrubs hard. Your scalp gets doused, soaked, scraped with her nails. A dull razor drags along your hairline, behind ears, down your neck. She doesn't ask if you've had lice, she assumes. A thin film of dead skin and dirt floats to the surface by the time she's done. Stand, she commands. You obey. Water streams down your legs, pooling at your feet before being brushed toward a drain. A stiff towel hits your chest, more sackcloth than fabric. You dry off as best you can. There's no mirror, just the basin's metal rim offering a warped glimpse of your face. Paler now, sallow, eyes too wide for their sockets. You barely recognize yourself. A uniform waits on the bench, trousers, shirt, vest, cap, all grayish, all coarse. The fabric scratches before you even put it on. As you dress, you notice faint outlines of previous wearers, creases, frayed seams, stains that didn't quite wash out. Nothing's tailored. Nothing fits. It's issued like punishment. The cap squeezes your temples when it goes on. You feel smaller inside it, smaller and less real. Your feet get no covering. The floor bites harder now that you're clean. The porter reappears, gesturing down a side hall. It's narrow and dim, lit by one wall-mounted lamp and a high, barred window. You pass rooms with open doors, one with benches facing a blank wall, another with crates of dried bread stacked too neatly to be comforting. You're told when to walk, when to stop, when to move again. No one raises their voice. No one touches you. Yet the pressure to comply is crushing in its silence. You sense it in the corridor's stillness, in how the walls feel too close, in the constant certainty that someone's watching even when no one's there. This discipline isn't enforced by violence. It's designed into the architecture itself. The hallway ends at a thicker door, darker, scuffed along the bottom from countless boots. The porter unlocks it with a key. The hinges groan like something in pain. The dormitory hits you first with its smell, not cold, not warm, just dense with old sweat, unwashed wool, and chamber pots overdue for emptying. Underneath lingers something faintly sour, a decay not strong enough to name but impossible to ignore. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. The room stretches too long to see the far end. Row after row of cots stand shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, forming patterns so repetitive they start feeling unreal. No privacy, no space, just men lying in identical lines, wearing identical exhaustion. There's rhythm to the sounds, snoring from one corner, coughing from the center, someone shifting with a murmur. A few groans rise and fall in the dark, but no one speaks. Speaking isn't part of the arrangement here. The staff member leading you doesn't check if you're following. He points to a cot near the damp outer wall where the ceiling sags slightly. You walk carefully, avoiding stray boots, a discarded tin mug, one man's foot hanging off his bed. He doesn't stir as you pass. You wonder if he's asleep or just too tired to move. Your cot isn't special. Narrow wooden frame, sagging slightly at the center. The mattress is thin, barely padded, stained in patterns that tell stories you don't want to know. No sheets, just a coarse gray blanket folded stiff at the foot, never quite dry. The pillow's more suggestion than substance, flat and lumpy like a sack of forgotten oats. You glance down the row. No one is better. You sit first. The wood creaks ominously but holds. The man beside you stirs, rolls onto his side, exhales unevenly. He doesn't acknowledge you. That's the rule here. No one welcomes newcomers. No one offers advice. Everyone's too tired, too hungry, too worn down by their own survival to bother with yours. You're alone in a room full of bodies. The wall beside your cot is mottled with dark patches, mold growing between stones where moisture seeps through. It spreads in vein-like patterns. The smell near it is mustier than elsewhere. You turn away, but there's no escape from something here. Every angle offers fresh discomfort. Another man's boots, ribs visible under a thin shirt, a cough too wet to ignore, or eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. You focus on the floor instead. No lamp lights your end of the ward. What little illumination exists comes from two gas sconces near the room's center, their flames low and flickering. Shadows stretch unnaturally, bending across cots and faces like restless hands. You try not to look too long at any shape. You're tired enough to start seeing things. You remove your cap, holding it in your lap. Your hands are still raw from earlier. Fingertips puckered from washing, knuckles cracking in the dry air. You want to rub them together for warmth, but movement might draw attention. You're not ready for that yet. You set the cap aside and lie back slowly. The mattress doesn't yield. It fights back in all the wrong places. Shoulders settle unevenly. The blanket, once pulled up, does nothing against drafts sneaking down the length of the room like ghosts searching for lost things. You shift, then shift again, finally surrender to discomfort. No one here found comfort either. 2 cots down, a man starts coughing. Deep, racking sounds that tear through the stillness like boots on gravel. No one reacts. No one helps. The coughs eventually subside into wheezing, then silence. Someone at the far end mutters, maybe a prayer, maybe madness. It fades quickly. You study the ceiling, low enough to reach with a stick, but too high to feel like shelter. The beams above are dusty, old, bowed with age. You wonder how many winters they've endured. Wonder if they've ever collapsed. Wonder if it would matter. A rustling sound catches your attention. Someone adjusting a blanket, scratching, mumbling in an unfamiliar language. You close your eyes, trying to block it out. But the noise is everywhere. Not loud, but constant. Breathing, coughing, shifting, muttering, groaning. It blends into something just shy of silence, but never peace. You turn toward the wall. The mold is closer now. The damp stone smell fills your nose. You pull the blanket over your shoulder. It doesn't help. Your elbow brushes the cot's edge. A splinter catches your sleeve. You tug free without thinking. You're still fully clothed. Everyone is. No one undresses here. Nowhere to put clothes. Nothing underneath them. Stripping would invite cold, illness, shame. So you lie stiff in your uniform, buttons pressing into ribs, fabric scratching knees. You try pulling the blanket tighter, but it's too short. Ankles remain exposed. Your stomach growls, though there's nothing left to digest. It folds in on itself, making do with memory of food. You breathe shallowly through your mouth, but the air here carries too much of everything. You don't want to know what's in it. You don't know how long you've been lying there. No clock, no light change, just the dormitory and its sounds. Your legs spasm, first slightly, then harder. Cramps begin small but grow. You stretch one leg, hoping it helps. It doesn't. The chill has settled deep, making joints feel rusted. Eventually you curl tighter, knees to chest, chin tucked, trying to create a pocket of heat. It's not much, and holding the position makes your hips ache, but it's better than sprawled limbs exposed to air. Your hands stay tucked under your arms, curled into fists. You press them tighter, hoping pressure distracts from the lice crawling your scalp and the pulse in your temples. They haven't stopped moving. You can feel them behind your ears now, at your next base. You clench your jaw against groaning. Outside, somewhere distant, a dog barks once, the only outside sound in hours. A reminder the world still turns without you. Inside, nothing changes. You breathe slow. Count to 10. Try not to think. Eventually, despite everything, you drift off. A bell clangs, not the usual chapel call or meal signal, but something flatter, sharper. A tone that doesn't ask, it commands. You rise automatically because the others do, because hesitation is noted. The dormitory air is colder this morning than last night. The fire was never lit, and dampness has seeped into the bedding. Your shoulders ache. Your knees protest. None of it matters. A figure appears in the doorway. A staff member with a clipboard and a short stick. He doesn't speak at first, just scans the room like a butcher assessing livestock. Then the numbers begin. Yours comes mid-list, barked without inflection, without even a glance your way. You stand. You follow. You don't ask why. In the hall, others shuffle into line, some stiff, some slow, none looking at each other. The corridor stretches ahead, gray and lightless. The only sound the slap of bare feet on stone. You're being herded toward the outer gate. No one says it aloud, but the meaning is clear. Your time here is finished. No explanation, no warning, just the silent understanding that whatever use they saw in you has been wrung out. At the corridor's end, an orderly waits beside a wooden crate. Inside, bundled clothes, soiled, damp, barely folded. He calls your number again and tosses a bundle at you. You catch it clumsily, fingers still numb. The uniform you're shedding clings like mildew, but what you're handed isn't an improvement. These are your own clothes, or what's left of them, creased, smudged, crawling with things you'd rather not name. You're given no time to change. The gate is already unlatching. The iron bolt slides with a clang. No farewell. No instructions. Just a blank-faced porter and a door swinging open to the outside world, where the drizzle hasn't stopped. The courtyard is empty. Mud slicks the cobblestones. The rain falls in that steady, endless way that soaks through before you notice. You step through the gate, and the weather wraps around you like a wet shroud. The door shuts behind you before your second foot leaves the threshold. Not slammed, just closed. Firm. Final. For a moment, you don't move. You're standing in the same drizzle you left behind days ago. Only now it's colder. It always feels colder after time inside. Your shoes, if you can still call them that, are soft with rot at the toes. The soles squish as you shift your weight. You hug the clothes tighter to your chest, more for something to hold than for warmth. Down the lane, the street looks the same. Flanked by soot-stained brick and refuse piles the rain never quite washes clean. The workhouse looms behind you, high-walled and indifferent. No sign marks it. No light glows from the windows. From the outside, it could be anything. A mill, a school, a prison. Maybe it's all of those in spirit, if not in name. You take a step, then another. The drizzle beads on your sleeves. Your stomach twists, hollow and resentful. The gruel they served you yesterday didn't last. It never does. Your body is still fatigued. From the labor, the cold, the quiet violence of being washed without being seen. Your feet slip slightly on the stones. You steady yourself against a crumbling wall, fingers brushing wet brick. You pass a shuttered shop. A woman hurries by, cloak pulled tight, face downturned. She doesn't look at you. No one does. Not really. You're back to what you were before. A shape in the mist, a shadow too thin to matter. Your thoughts don't turn to what comes next, because there is no next. Not really. Just more streets. More doorways. Maybe the churchyard if the vicar isn't watching. Maybe the alley behind the bakery if the night watch has moved on. You know where the heat vents are. You know which roofs leak less. You've known it all longer than you care to measure. You're not angry. Not exactly. That takes energy. What you feel is smaller, heavier, a quiet compression at the base of your ribs, like something inside is folding in on itself, trying to take up less space. You thought the workhouse might offer something solid. Not kindness, not comfort, but maybe structure. A wall against the rain, a dry cot, a pause. But the structure doesn't hold you. It holds itself. You were just another body, absorbed and released as needed, like breath through a broken lung. You keep walking. You don't know how long it's been since you left the gate. 5 minutes, half an hour. Time slips again, like it did inside. Your arms hang heavy. Your sleeves stick to your skin. Your fingers are cracked at the creases, soap still lingering faintly under your nails. The city moves around you, slow and disinterested. Carts pass. A boy runs by with newspapers. Somewhere, a man laughs from inside a pub. The sound doesn't reach you. It feels foreign, part of a different life. You pass stalls opening for trade. A woman shakes out a cloth with sharp snaps. A man sorts fish into bins of melting ice. You don't stop. You don't meet eyes. You know how you must look, hollow-cheeked, hunched, still marked by the place you just left. It lingers on you. The workhouse, like the scent of carbolic and grease and failure. People smell it, even if they don't realize. You're not one of them. Not a customer. Not a neighbor. Just a shape passing through, permitted to exist so long as you keep moving. Your stomach cramps again, the dull reminder of a body still empty. You had your gruel. You had your ration. But it doesn't stay. It doesn't last. Hunger is quieter now, more patient, but no less present. It settles between your ribs and waits. It always waits. You pause beneath a butcher's overhang. Not for the meat, you know better than to stare, but for the brief cover from the drizzle. The rain hasn't stopped. It never really does this time of year. It just shifts, mist to droplets to fog and back. You adjust your collar and step away before the owner notices you loitering. A constable crosses the road ahead, coat stiff with pride and mud. You slow without thinking. No one wants to look like they're lingering when there's nothing to linger for. You keep your head low, your gait even. He glances once, moves on. The same indifference you've come to expect. The same reminder, what happened to you and there wasn't meant to make you safer. Just less visible. You walk past the alley where you used to sleep. It's occupied now, two shapes huddled behind a crate under what might have once been a coat. You don't stop. You've learned the rules. Don't stare. Don't ask. Don't approach unless you're willing to share what little you have. And you have nothing, not even warmth. Further on, you pass a church, not the workhouses, but another, older. Its stones dark with soot and rain. A bell tolls inside, lower, softer than the iron clang of the chapel. The sound reminds you of the sermon. You hadn't meant to remember, but you do. The droning voice, the glint of gold at the speaker's wrist, the words about sin and sloth and gratitude spoken to a room of empty eyes. You nodded when others did, not hearing the question, just the rhythm, the habit, the performance of obedience. You blink and realize you've stopped again. Not from weakness, though that's part of it, but something closer to confusion. Your eyes trace the path ahead, and then you see it. The gate. It's in front of you. The same high iron bars. The same soot-streaked stone. The same arch with its chipped paint and modest plaque. No porter. No line. Just the gate, shut again, like it had never opened. You don't knock. You don't plan to. But you don't leave either. Your feet stay planted where cobbles meet wet stone. The drizzle darkens your shoulders, seeps down your collar where the seam has split. You pull your coat tighter, though it helps nothing. And you stare. You remember the cot. Narrow, damp, crowded, your shoulder touching another man's back every time he shifted. The smell of sweat and wet wool. Sleep half-earned, never finished. You remember the gruel, the texture more than the taste, the sound it made hitting the tin. How your fingers scraped the last bits while a staff member paced behind you, boots sharp on stone. You remember the sermon, not the words, just the weight of it, the demand for shame. How even gratitude became another form of obedience. You remember the stones, sharp, round, heavy, the ache in your palms, the dumb, endless work of moving them from pile to pile without purpose. The silence between workers, the way the staff watched, not with interest, but habit. And you remember the man beside you who never spoke, the one with the twisted ear and old boots who never cried, never asked, just endured. You wonder if he's still inside, still breaking stones, still hearing the same bells, learning the same silence. You wonder if he's warmer than you are now, if the cot, narrow, damp, hard, feels kinder than this wind. If the spoonfuls of gruel, meager and cold, sit better than the emptiness in your stomach. You wonder if being forgotten inside was less painful than being ignored out here. You don't reach for the gate. You don't knock. You just stand, water dripping from your sleeves, the ache settling deeper into your knees. The city moves behind you, slow and uncaring. The gate doesn't move. The rain doesn't stop. You draw your hands into your pockets. And you turn. The street stretches ahead in both directions, neither promising much. You pick one, not because it's better, not because it's safer, just because it leads away. You walk again, not faster, not stronger, just forward. And behind you, the gate remains. The bell rings differently this time. Not the flat command from before, but something heavier, final. A dismissal. You're standing in the yard when it happens, hands raw from breaking stones, back bent from hours of moving gravel from pile to pile and back again. The rain has stopped, but the air still hangs thick with moisture, clinging to your skin like a second uniform. Around you, other men pause mid-motion, hammers hovering, baskets tilting, all waiting for the next order. It doesn't come. Instead, the overseer walks down the line, tapping shoulders at random. When his stick prods your arm, you don't react at first, not until he barks your number. Then you understand. This isn't a break. This is removal. No explanation is given. None is needed. You're marched back inside, past the same corridors you came through days, weeks, months ago. The walls seem closer now, the ceilings lower, the smell of boiled cloth and unwashed bodies thicker in your nostrils. They lead you to the same vestibule where you first surrendered your clothes, your name, yourself. The same spectacled man sits behind the desk, ledger open, quill poised. He doesn't look up as he speaks. Turned out, he says, as if commenting on the weather. The words take a moment to register. Turned out. Not released, not discharged. Turned out, like milk left to sour, like a dog no longer useful for hunting. The box is slid forward, the same one your belongings were dumped into. Your clothes, if they can still be called that, are tossed at you in a damp bundle. They smell worse than you remember, mildewed and sour, like something left in a cellar too long. Change, says the key man. You do, right there, in front of them, as modesty is a luxury long since discarded here. The uniform you peel off is stiff with sweat and grime. The clothes you pull on are damp and crawling. The boots barely hold together as you shove your feet into them. No one says anything as you're led to the gate. No goodbyes, no warnings, no advice. The porter unlatches it with the same indifference he might show a delivery cart. The hinges groan, the same sound they made when you arrived. Only now it sounds like relief. Then you're outside, just like that. The street is exactly as you left it. The same puddles, the same refuse piled in the same corners, the same cold seeping through the same cracks in your soles. You take a step, then another, half expecting someone to call you back, to say it was a mistake, to demand you return to your cot, your labor, your number. No one does. You walk until the workhouse is out of sight, then keep walking. Your body moves automatically, carrying you through alleys and lanes you once knew by heart. Past the bakery, the loaves are just coming out, the smell like a physical blow. Past the butcher's, the constable still stands at his post, still doesn't look at you. Past the churchyard where you once slept beneath the yew tree. Someone else sleeps there now. You don't stop. Night falls slowly, then all at once. The temperature drops with it. You find yourself at the river's edge, where the warehouses loom black against the darker sky. There's a spot here, beneath the third arch, where the wind doesn't cut quite as deep. You've slept here before. Others have too. The stones are stained with it, the ground packed hard from countless bodies seeking warmth. You crouch, back against the damp brick, and stare at your hands. They're shaking, not from cold, though that's there too, but from something deeper, something you can't name. The blisters from the stones have broken open again. The cracks between your fingers bleed slightly where the skin has split. You flex them, watching the blood bead. A noise makes you look up. A boy stands a few feet away, thin as a shadow, eyes wide in the dark. He can't be more than 12, though hunger makes it hard to tell. He doesn't speak, just watches you with the same wary calculation you once used. You know what he sees. A man just turned out, still carrying the stink of the workhouse, still moving like he expects orders, still too new to the streets to remember how to survive them. For a long moment, neither of you moves. Then, slowly, you shift to one side. The boy hesitates, then darts forward, curling into the space you've made. His body is a tight knot of bones and rags, his breath coming fast and shallow. He doesn't thank you. You don't expect him to. You sit in silence as the night deepens around you. Somewhere downstream, a barge sounds its horn. The wind picks up, rattling through the arches like something trying to get in. The boy presses closer, seeking warmth. You let him. Above you, between the soot-blackened bricks, a single star glimmers faintly through the smog. You watch it until your eyes water, until the cold and the ache and the exhaustion pull you under. When you wake, the boy is gone. So is the star. The sky is gray with the kind of dawn that promises more rain. Your body protests as you stand, joints stiff, muscles locked in permanent crouch. The boy's absence leaves a space against your side where the cold rushes in. You look down. There, in the dirt beside where he slept, is half a biscuit. Hard as stone, stale as yesterday's bread. You stare at it for a long time. Then you pick it up, break it in two, and leave one piece where the boy can find it. The city wakes around you as you walk away. The biscuit sits in your palm like a stone, hard, unyielding, the edges crumbling where your fingers press too tight. You don't eat it. Not yet. Hunger is an old companion, patient enough to wait a little longer. The boy's absence lingers beside you, the space where he slept still faintly warm. You press your hand there for a moment, as if you could trap the heat, then stand stiffly, joints cracking like dry kindling. The sky is the color of dirty dishwater, the kind that's been left too long in the basin. It doesn't promise rain, it guarantees it. You pocket the biscuit and step out from under the arch. The river stinks this morning, thick and green, swollen with whatever the tide pushed in overnight. A dead dog floats near the bank, its fur matted, belly bloated. You look away. The city is waking in fits and starts. A barge creaks against the docks, its deckhands shouting in voices raw from last night's gin. A milk cart rattles past, the horse's ribs sharp beneath its mangy coat. You walk with no destination, just movement, because stopping means thinking, and thinking means remembering. The workhouse. The word lodges in your skull like a splinter. You can still smell it, lime and sweat and boiled cabbage. Still hear the chapel bell, the clang of hammers on stone, the wet coughs in the dark. Your hands flex at your sides, the broken blisters stinging. A shout snaps your head up. Two men are grappling near the chandlery, their faces red, their fists clumsy with drink or exhaustion or both. One goes down hard, his head hitting the cobbles with a crack that makes your teeth ache. No one intervenes. The crowd parts around them like water around stones, then flows together again. You keep walking. The biscuit weighs heavy in your pocket. You finger it occasionally, the rough texture a reminder that you have something, even if it's barely enough to matter. By midday, the rain starts, a fine, insistent drizzle that soaks through your collar before you can hunch your shoulders against it. You take shelter under the eaves of a cooper's shop, watching the street blur behind a curtain of gray. A woman passes, her skirts dragging in the mud. She's leading a child by the hand. A girl, maybe 4 or 5, her feet bare despite the cold. The woman doesn't look at you, but the child does. Her eyes are wide, curious, not yet trained to look through people like they're glass. You think of the boy from last night, of the biscuit he left, of the way he curled against you, trusting a stranger's warmth more than the night's cruelty. Your hand goes to your pocket. The biscuit is still there. The girl is gone. The rain slackens eventually, leaving the streets slick and shining. You emerge from your shelter, your stomach growling now, the biscuit's presence impossible to ignore any longer. You break it in half again, just to make it last. The first bite is dust and salt, the second barely enough to register. It doesn't matter. You've eaten worse. The afternoon stretches, endless and damp. You drift from street to alley to courtyard, your feet remembering routes your mind has forgotten. At some point, you find yourself outside the bakery again, the windows fogged with steam, the smell of fresh bread curling into the air like a taunt. You don't linger. The constable is still at his post, still watching, still not seeing you. Dusk comes early this time of year, the light leaching from the sky like ink from a bad pen. You retrace your steps toward the river, toward the arches, toward whatever shelter they can offer. The boy isn't there when you arrive, but someone else is. An old man, his beard matted, his fingers twisted with rheumatism, crouches in the space you occupied last night. He glances up as you approach, his eyes sharp in the gloom. You pause. He doesn't speak, just shifts slightly, making room. You take it. The night is colder than the last, the wind knifing through the arches with a sound like a whetstone on steel. The old man smells of urine and old sweat, his breath sour when he exhales. You don't care. Bodies are warmth. Warmth is survival. You wake to shouting. The old man is gone, the space beside you empty. The shouting continues, a ragged, panicked sound that echoes under the arches. You scramble up, your heart hammering, to see a figure darting between the warehouses, pursued by 2 others. A robbery, a debt, a grudge. It doesn't matter. You sink back down, your pulse loud in your ears. The sky is lightening, the stars fading behind a veil of smoke and fog. Somewhere, a church bell tolls, the first of the day, calling the faithful to their knees. You don't move. Not yet. When you finally rise, your body protests, every muscle stiff, every joint locked in place. The old man hasn't returned. You wonder if he will. The biscuit is gone from your pocket. You don't know when you ate it. The river is high this morning, the current swift and dark. You stand at the edge, watching the water churn, and think of the dead dog from yesterday, of how easily the current took it, of how little it struggled. Your reflection stares back at you, a pale smudge against the murk. You don't recognize it. A voice calls out behind you. A fisherman, his nets piled high, his face weathered by wind and work. He's looking at you, really looking, not through you. You all right there? The question is so simple, so unexpected, that you almost laugh. You nod. He doesn't believe you, but he doesn't press. Just jerks his chin toward the docks. Need an extra hand today? Pays shit, but it's work. You stare at him. Work. Not the workhouse. Work. Your hands are already ruined. Your back already aches. But the river smells like freedom. You take a step forward. Then another. The fisherman nods, as if he expected nothing else. Come on then, he says, turning toward the boats. You follow. Behind you, the city wakes. Ahead, the river rolls on. The fishing boat rocks beneath your feet, the deck slick with scales and brine. You grip the rail, knuckles whitening, as the world tilts violently. The fisherman, Gareth, he grunted when you asked, doesn't laugh at your sea legs. Just tosses you a knife and points to the nets. Cut the knots, he says, not the lines. The first hour is agony. Salt water finds every crack in your skin, burning like liquid fire. The knife slips twice, nicking your thumb. You suck the blood away, tasting iron and salt. Around you, the crew moves with practiced ease, their hands rough as driftwood, their faces carved by wind and sun. No one speaks to you. No one needs to. By midday, your fingers move without thought. Slice, pull, toss. The rhythm is hypnotic, the work mindless in a way the workhouse never allowed. Here, the ocean sets the pace. Here, the only bell is the cry of gulls. The nets never end. Fish after fish spills onto the deck, their scales flashing silver in the weak sunlight. You separate them by size, your hands moving automatically, your back bent in a permanent curve. The smell is overwhelming, rot and salt, and something primal that sticks in your throat. Gareth watches you sometimes, his eyes sharp beneath his cap. He doesn't correct you, doesn't praise you, just nods occasionally, as if confirming something to himself. The boat sways. The waves rise. Your stomach lurches, but you swallow the bile down. Hunger is a luxury here. Weakness is not. When the last net is emptied, Gareth jerks his chin toward a bucket. Eat, he says. The fish is raw, the flesh cold and slippery between your fingers. You tear into it like an animal, the taste briny and rich, the bones crunching between your teeth. No one comments. No one cares. The sky darkens as you turn back toward shore. The city looms in the distance, its chimneys belching smoke, its streets teeming with invisible life. You stare at it, this place that rejected you, and feel nothing. The dock is crowded when you return. Merchants shout prices, their voices hoarse from the damp. Women in stained aprons gut fish with practiced strokes, their knives flashing in the fading light. Gareth presses coins into your palm. 3 pence, warm from his pocket. Same time tomorrow, he says. Then he's gone, swallowed by the crowd. You stand there, the coins heavy in your hand, the smell of fish clinging to your skin. 3 pence. Enough for a meal. Maybe 2, if you're careful. You don't head toward the baker's. Don't linger near the taverns. Instead, you walk to the bridge, to the arch where the boy slept. He's not there, but the old man is, his back against the stone, his hands cupped around a tin cup. You drop a penny into it. He doesn't thank you, just nods, once, and takes a sip. The night is clear for once, the stars visible between the smoke. You find a dry patch beneath the bridge and sit, your back against the stone, your legs stretched before you. The coins jingle in your pocket as you shift. Tomorrow, you'll work again. Tomorrow, you'll earn more. For now, you close your eyes and listen to the river. The morning fog hangs thick over the docks when you return, swallowing the masts of fishing boats whole. Your muscles scream with every step. Yesterday's labor has settled deep into your bones. The blisters on your palms have wept through the night, staining your shirt sleeves with thin streaks of blood and salt. Gareth is already aboard when you arrive, his pipe smoke curling into the damp air. He doesn't greet you, just jerks his chin toward a pile of nets needing mending. The fibers are rough as sandpaper against your torn hands, but you work silently. There's comfort in this pain. It's honest, earned, unlike the workhouse's meaningless stone breaking. By mid-morning, the sun burns through the fog, revealing the harbor in sudden clarity. A boy, maybe 12, all elbows and knees, scrambles aboard with a bucket of bait. His eyes widen when he sees you, recognizing another street rat turned deckhand. You nod, just slightly. He doesn't return the gesture, but something in his posture relaxes. The fishing is better today. The nets come up heavy with cod and haddock, their gills flaring as they suffocate on deck. You learn to club them quickly, a sharp rap behind the eyes. It's mercy, really. Their scales stick to your skin like silver coins as you sort them into barrels. Keep that one, Gareth mutters when you hold up a medium-sized cod. For supper, the words settle in your chest, warm as the pipe smoke drifting from his lips. Supper, not rations, not gruel. Supper. The work continues through the turning tide. Your hands move automatically now. Mend, cast, haul, sort. The rhythm matches your heartbeat. When the last net is stowed, Gareth presses 4 pence into your palm instead of 3. Tide's turning earlier tomorrow, is all he says. You pocket the coins and take your cod, wrapped in yesterday's newspaper. The ink has bled into the fish's skin, leaving smudged headlines across its flesh. Mill workers strike. Floods in the north. Queen's visit. The bridge arch is empty when you arrive. No old man. No boy. Just the lingering smell of urine and damp stone. You build a small fire in the lee of the abutment, the flames barely enough to cook by. The cod sizzles as it hits the hot stone, its skin curling black at the edges. You eat slowly, savoring each flake. The fish tastes of the sea and newsprint, of long hours and earned rest. When the last bite is gone, you lick your fingers clean, then examine your hands in the firelight. The blisters are hardening into calluses. The cuts are scabbing over. They're becoming a working man's hands. Somewhere in the night, a whistle blows, the night watch making rounds. You stamp out the embers and curl into your usual corner. The stones retain the day's warmth, and for once, you don't shiver as sleep takes you. The third morning arrives with rain. Not the fine, misting drizzle of before, but a proper downpour that soaks through your clothes before you've taken 10 steps toward the docks. The streets run with filthy water, carrying offal and refuse toward the gutters. You walk with your head down, shoulders hunched, the coins in your pocket clinking softly with each step. Gareth is waiting beneath a tarpaulin stretched between 2 barrels, his pipe clenched between his teeth, his eyes squinted against the smoke. He doesn't comment on your sodden state, just jerks his chin toward the boat. Tide won't wait, he says. The deck is slick beneath your boots, the wood dark with rainwater. The nets are heavier when wet, the fibers swollen and rough against your healing blisters. You work without complaint. There's no point. The rain doesn't care. The fish don't either. By midday, the storm eases to a steady patter. The crew moves with quiet efficiency, their hands sure even as the boat pitches on the choppy water. You've learned to anticipate the roll of the deck now, your body adjusting before the wave even hits. It's a small thing, but it makes you feel less like an outsider. The catch is poor. A few mackerel, a handful of whiting, nothing worth shouting about. Gareth scowls at the meager haul, but says nothing. He's not a man given to wasted words. Instead, he gestures for you to help sort what little they've caught, his fingers quick as he separates the keepers from the ones too small to bother with. Bad luck, one of the other fishermen mutters, spitting over the side. Gareth just grunts. Luck's got nothing to do with it. You don't ask what he means. The work is slower today, the rhythm off without the usual haul to process. You find yourself glancing at the city skyline between tasks, the chimneys and steeples blurred by rain. It looks different from out here, smaller, somehow, less imposing. When the nets are finally stowed and the deck cleared, Gareth counts out your pay. 2 pence this time, not 3 or 4. He holds them out, his palm rough and scarred. Tomorrow, he says, as if that's answer enough. You take the coins without argument. The workhouse taught you that much, at least, when to keep your mouth shut. The rain has stopped by the time you reach the bridge, leaving the air thick with the smell of wet stone and river mud. The old man is back, hunched in his usual spot, his clothes steaming slightly in the damp heat. He glances up as you approach, his eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. You don't speak. Just hold out one of the pennies. He takes it with a nod, then reaches into his coat and pulls out a twist of paper. Inside is a heel of bread, stale but edible. He breaks it in two and offers you half. You eat in silence, the bread dry in your throat, the taste faintly of mold, but better than nothing. When it's gone, the old man leans back against the stone and closes his eyes. "Storm will be back," he says after a while. You don't ask how he knows. Night falls quietly, the city's usual clamor muted by the rain. You curl into your corner, your clothes still damp, your stomach not quite full, but no longer gnawing at your ribs. Somewhere out on the river, a barge sounds its horn, low and mournful, like a beast calling to its kin. You close your eyes and listen to the water lap at the pilings below. Tomorrow, the tide will turn. Tomorrow, you'll work again. For now, you sleep. The fourth dawn breaks clear and cold, the sky scrubbed pale by last night's storm. Frost glitters on the cobbles as you make your way to the docks, your breath pluming in the air. The blisters on your hands have hardened into proper calluses now, the cracks between your fingers sealed with fish grease and salt. Gareth is already at the boat, his pipe unlit for once, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun stains the water gold. He doesn't turn when you board, but you catch the slight tilt of his head. Acknowledgement. "Wind's changed," he says. You don't ask what that means for the fishing. Just take your place at the nets, your fingers moving automatically to check the knots. The fibers are stiff with cold, the dew frozen into tiny beads that melt against your skin. The crew arrives in ones and twos, their faces ruddy from the chill. The boy from yesterday, the one with the bait bucket, scrambles aboard last, his nose red, his fingers tucked under his arms for warmth. He shoots you a glance, quick and assessing, before ducking past to his usual spot near the mast. No one speaks much. The morning is too sharp for words. The nets go out with the turning tide, the ropes hissing as they uncoil into the water. You've learned the rhythm now, the way to throw your weight into the cast without overbalancing, how to read the tug of the current through the line. It's not skill, not yet, but it's something closer to it than the Workhouse's mindless labor ever was. The first haul is decent, a mix of cod and haddock, their scales dull in the weak light. You club them quickly, your hands sure, your movements efficient. The boy watches as you gut them, his eyes tracking the knife. After a moment, he reaches for a fish of his own and mimics your motions, his strokes clumsy but determined. Gareth notices but says nothing, just taps his pipe against the rail and moves on. By midday, the sun has burned off the last of the frost, leaving the deck slick with meltwater and fish slime. The work is steady, the rhythm unbroken except for the occasional shout when the nets snag. Your back aches, your shoulders burn, but there's satisfaction in it. In knowing the pain means something. The catch is better today. Not enough to celebrate, but enough that Gareth doesn't scowl when he tallies it up. He pays you 3 pence at the end, the coins warm from his palm. "Tomorrow," he says like always. You pocket the money and take the fish he offers, a decent-sized whiting this time, its eyes still clear, its flesh firm. The boy is lingering by the rail as you leave, his hands shoved in his pockets, his gaze darting between you and the docks. You pause, then hold out the fish. He hesitates, takes it, nods once, quick and sharp, before scurrying off into the gathering dark. The bridge arch is empty when you arrive. No old man tonight. Just the usual damp and the faint, lingering smell of last night's fire. You build another small one, the flames barely enough to cook by, and eat the bread you bought with one of the pennies, stale, but better than nothing. The whiting can wait for tomorrow. You wake sometime near dawn to the sound of footsteps on the stones above. For a moment, you lie still, listening, half expecting the constable's stick or a thief's probing hands. But the steps pass without pause, fading into the distance. The sky is just beginning to lighten when you rise, your joints stiff from the cold. The river slides past, dark and silent, carrying with it the detritus of the city, broken crates, dead leaves, the occasional lump you don't look at too closely. Somewhere out there, the tide is turning. Somewhere out there, Gareth is waiting. You stretch, roll your shoulders, and start toward the docks. A week passes in the rhythm of tides and labor. You learn the patterns of the docks, which boats bring the best catches, which merchants pay fair prices for odd jobs when fishing is slow. The boy, Jim, you learn his name is, starts appearing regularly, his quick hands earning him occasional pennies for bait cutting and line mending. The old man under the bridge disappears one night, replaced by a family of 4 who eye you warily before settling at the far end of the arch. The morning of the 8th day dawns unusually warm for the season. The river lies flat and calm, reflecting the sky like tarnished silver. Gareth meets you at the dock with an unfamiliar glint in his eye. "Not fishing today," he grunts, jerking his thumb toward a weathered schooner further down the wharf. "Captain Briggs needs hands for a coastal run. 2 days out, 1 back. Pays 5 shillings. Your fingers pause where they're checking the nets. 5 shillings is more than you've held at once since before the workhouse. Enough for a proper meal every day. Maybe even a blanket when winter comes." Gareth studies your face. "You'll get seasick first time in open water," he says matter-of-factly. "But you work hard. Could make a sailor yet." The words settle in your chest, warm as the weak sunlight on your shoulders. Not praise exactly, but something rarer, recognition. You glance at the schooner, its sails furled, its deck bustling with activity. Then at the city rising behind you, its soot-stained buildings, its maze of alleys where you've slept hungry more nights than not. The choice should feel heavier, but when you nod, it's with a certainty that surprises you. Gareth claps you on the shoulder, the first time he's touched you beyond passing coins. "Tell Briggs I sent you. He'll see you right." Jim appears as you're boarding, his face unusually solemn. He presses something into your hand, a twisted bit of fishing line knotted into a crude bracelet. "For luck," he mumbles, already backing away. The schooner's deck moves differently beneath your feet, broader, steadier than Garrett's fishing boat, but alive in its own way. The crew moves with purpose, coiling ropes, checking supplies. No one questions your presence. You're just another set of hands. As the ship pulls away from the dock, you stand at the rail, watching the city shrink. The workhouse is invisible from here, lost in the sprawl of buildings. You try to summon some feeling about it, anger, relief, anything, but there's only a quiet emptiness, like an old wound that's finally stopped aching. The first mate barks an order, snapping you back to the present. There are ropes to coil, decks to scrub, 100 small tasks that will earn your keep. You turn your face toward the open water, where gulls wheel and cry. The bracelet around your wrist is already crusting with salt. You touch it once, then get to work. Behind you, the city fades into the haze. Ahead, the sea stretches endless and unknown. The wind smells of salt and possibility. For the first time in longer than you can remember, you don't wonder where your next meal will come from. You know you'll earn it. The horizon line stays steady as the schooner cuts through the waves. Your hands, once soft and bleeding, are brown with sun and hard with work. They don't shake anymore. You breathe deep, and the air is clean. The schooner horizon's edge cut through the waves, her sails full with the kind of wind that only came after a storm. The deck was alive with movement, ropes creaking, men calling to one another, the occasional cry of gulls overhead. You stood at the bow, salt spray stinging your face, your hands gripping the rail not out of fear, but familiarity. 3 months at sea had changed you. The workhouse pallor had burned away under the sun, replaced by a deep, weathered brown. Your hands, once cracked and bleeding, were now crisscrossed with scars and calluses, marks of honest labor. The blisters had hardened into something useful. "Land ho!" came the shout from the crow's nest. You squinted against the glare. There, on the horizon, the familiar smudge of the city appeared. Smokestacks and church spires, the docks a tangle of masts and rigging. It looked smaller now, somehow, less imposing. Captain Briggs clapped you on the shoulder. "Back to port, then. You staying ashore this time?" You hesitated. The sea had been good to you. The work was hard, but it was yours. No one owned you out here. No ledgers, no numbers, no rules beyond those of wind and tide. But there was someone waiting. "I'll be back," you said finally. "Just got business to settle first." Briggs grinned, his teeth white against his salt and pepper beard. I figured. That boy's been haunting the docks like a ghost since we sailed. The Horizon's Edge dock just past noon. The moment your boots hit the pier, you spotted him. Jim, perched on a stack of crates, his legs swinging, his eyes scanning every face that stepped ashore. When he saw you, he froze. Then he was running, bare feet slapping against the wet wood. "You're back," he gasped, skidding to a stop just shy of barreling into you. He'd grown taller, his wrists poking out from his sleeves, his cheeks less hollow. But his grin was the same. Sharp, hopeful, too clever for his own good. "Told you I would be," you said. He scoffed. "You said 2 weeks. It's been 3 months." You reached into your coat and tossed him a small bundle, a sailor's knife, wrapped in oilcloth. "Had to earn this first." Jim's eyes widened as he unwrapped it. The blade was good steel, the handle worn smooth by years of use. "Where'd you get this?" "Traded for it in Bristol. Belonged to an old whaler." You shrugged. "Figured you'd need one, if you're gonna keep fishing." He clutched it like a holy relic. Then, suddenly serious, he dug into his pocket and thrust something into your hand. A penny, the same one he'd given you before you left. "You forgot it," he said. You turned the coin over in your palm. The face was worn smooth, the edges softened by time and countless exchanges. It wasn't worth much, but it was his. You tucked it back into your pocket. "Let's go see Gareth." Gareth was where he always was, leaning against the hull of his boat, pipe clamped between his teeth, watching the water with a sailor's patience. He didn't turn when you approached, but you saw the corner of his mouth twitch. "Back already?" he grunted. "Told you I would be." He snorted. "Aye, and I told you you'd make a sailor." You handed him a bottle of rum, bought with your first real wages. He took it without comment, but you saw the approval in his eyes. That night, you sat around a driftwood fire on the beach, passing the bottle between you. Jim roasted fish on a stick, his new knife glinting in the firelight. Gareth told stories of storms and shipwrecks, his voice rough as the tide. And for the first time in longer than you could remember, you realized you weren't just surviving. You were living. At dawn, you stood on the pier again, your sea bag slung over your shoulder. Jim was there, bouncing on his toes. "You're really going back?" he asked. You nodded. 2 months this time. Then home. He chewed his lip. "You'll come back." You ruffled his hair, just to see him scowl. "Told you I would." And as the Horizon's Edge pulled away from the dock, you watched the city shrink behind you. Not with fear, not with relief, but with the quiet certainty that this time, you had something to return to. The wind filled the sails. The gulls cried overhead, and the sea stretched endless before you.